all been asking about these. These are the beautiful water ripple moulds from IntoResin. Now, there's not many videos on these out there yet, so I thought we'd have a go and do some. We have got 2 stars, starfish. And can you look how I've never seen silicone this soft, that this see-through. I mean, they're obviously intending us to use them with UV resin, but of course you could use them with epoxy. It makes, you know, either, whichever takes your fancy, or polyurethane for that matter. But can you see in there? Look how clear they are. Now, the other clever thing with these, not with the starfish, but with these little pendant ones, is that you can see they've built in, let me get a pointy thing. Here we've got 2 little rubber doodies for making your hole through. So you just push a drill through that and you've got your pendant hole. Isn't that clever? Well done, IntoResin. So, yeah. Let's give them a go, shall we? Now, what I've seen on their video is putting in a layer of clear, and that could have a coloured tint to it, and then curing that up and then putting in something on the back. And in their video, they did 3 different techniques. I'll put you a link to their video down below in the video description, by the way, along with links for as much of this as I can remember where I got it from. Oh yeah, we've got a 20% discount code on these moulds from IntoResin, and I've also got a discount code for some of the powders and shimmery stuffs that I'll be using, so I'll put those in the video description too for you. But yeah, in that video they used 3 different techniques, and most of it seemed to involve shimmery white powder. So I thought we'd do one similar to how they've done it. But then we have got holographic glitter. We have got some silvery flakes. We've got a whole load of the gorgeous stuff from Toonfish Crafts. We've got Chameleon flakes, Chameleon powder. We've got Ethereal powder and Ethereal flakes. We've got all those. We've got some of IntoResin's, what do they call these? Intense Aurora Chameleon. So I thought we could try one of those. We've got some really cheap Mylar flakes. And I've got a bit of shimmery pigment. And if I'm still having fun at that point, I've got some nail foils as well. So yeah, we're going to have some fun here. I've got my clip on the desk UV lamp. Here it is. And the only reason I'm using this instead of my big ultraviolet one from, see, look, it's got a clippy on the end. Seen better days, this one. It's looking a bit past its sell by. But yeah, the reason I'm not using my big one from Resin is that I thought this would be easier for you to see what was going on if I used this. I'm going to have a play. Got my gloves on. All we need now is some resin and a lot of little pots. And all they did was they took a little bit of resin, tiniest tint of colour. Let's have the tiniest dot of sky blue. Is that enough is the next question. Yeah, probably. A little bit more. And then they just popped it straight into the bottom of one of these little moulds, cured it up, and then put the colour on, put the white on the back. And then they backed it off with just more of the coloured resin. So there we are. Let's do this with this one, because it's a good size and we can see what we're doing. Now, of course, if you've got some already coloured UV resin, go ahead and use that, I would suggest. Now, I'm just going to tip it around, make sure we've got a bit of a coverage in the bottom. I think I need a bit more than that. So let's mix a bit more up. This is very much making it up as I go along, as you can see. Although with this one, I am trying to replicate their technique. I always think if the manufacturers have gone to the trouble of doing a demo video, it's worth trying their way of doing it, don't you think? And what we're going to worry if there's streaks of the colour in here, because it will just add to the water effect. We've got no sun coming into my craft room today. It's reasonably light and bright. I have put some lights on, but there isn't much UV content in my lights. So I'm hoping that this won't cure when I don't want it to. Right, and I've made a mess. Okay, the bubbles are coming out of that now. Now, you don't want to be poking around in these moulds with anything sharp. They're handmade. Now, remember how these work. The IntoResin handmade moulds, when they say handmade, they mean the original that the mould is taken from is handmade as well, especially for them. So, yeah, they're a bit well, I wouldn't say delicate. They're no more delicate than probably any other mould. It's just that because there's so much work and the silicone is so lovely and soft that's gone into these, you really don't want to be wrecking them, and they're not cheap either. So we're going to give that a cure. Now that is quite deep. I probably could do with getting my double-sided UV lamp out really, but I've kind of got stuff everywhere, and I'm just going to use a normal one because I know, well, say normal. I use my little clip-on one. Hello, say hello, light. There we go. Simply because, yeah, it's convenient, and to be honest, these moulds are so transparent. I think it's going to go straight through anyway. Right, let's just put this little UV light on it. What you want to do is get a sticky surface. Now we're just going to put onto the back using a little makeup brush, a little bit of this white shimmery powder. Now this is from Ethereal. Now, I think the problem I'm having here is, yes, the UV resin I put in is too thick. I think ideally I'd use epoxy, to be honest, despite the fact that these are see-through moulds. But, it looks to me as if they are intending us to be able to use them with UV. But I think if I was to do a load of these to sell, I would probably just use epoxy because they are quite deep, actually. There's quite a lot going on there, isn't there? So we're just going to top up the back. A little bit more blue again, just to seal it in and to fill that space up. This time I'll have my lamp on a bit less powerful. Just going to shade it from the light so it doesn't go flash curing on me. This time I've got my lamp on a lower setting. There we are. Right, let's let that cure properly. In the meantime, I will put a bit of UV in this one ready, simply because I've got a bit left in my little pot, so I might as well use it up, mightn't I? And then we'll be switching over to epoxy. Okay, so what I've done with this one is I put the blue in first, and I just put some clear in the middle. So look, I don't know if you can see that. I've got like a halo effect going on. So let's get them both cured up. I think this one should be cured by now anyway. Let's get him out and have a look, shall we? So we've got our little hole through the top. Oh yeah, that's water rippled. Look at that. Isn't that nice? I like it. I do like it. It has cured all through. I think because the mould is so very clear. Okay, so that's number one done, and that is using the technique that they recommend. And it does look like water ripples. Isn't that amazing? Right, moving on. So this one I've now cured up. But like I said, I am going to switch over to epoxy next. Let's have a look at what happens if we put this on the back of it. This is, they still do this, but it's from Just For You online, and it is just this wonderful fine sparkly stuff. I don't know what to call it. Oh, brush. That brush will do. It's one of the ignition glitters set, if I remember rightly. Like I said, I don't know whether they still do it or not. Oh, static going crazy. It's flying around in the air. I will finish this one off with UV, seeing as I've started it with UV. Might as well carry on, mightn't I? But yeah, it's like a very fine flake. Interesting to see what that does. Okay, let's top this off. This time I'm just going to go in with clear on the back. So let's make sure it's done from all round. While it's in the mould, you can see through, and it looks pretty, but it doesn't look like it's doing anything much. Okay, let's just give it a bit longer. See, the light should go straight through both the mould. This silicone's fantastic. I must ask them about it. Yeah, water ripple effect. I think the shimmer might have, because that's so shimmery, that might have overpowered it a bit. Nice all the same. Let's put a bit of white behind it. A bit of white paper somewhere. Here's a little scrap of white paper. So this is what we've got so far. So I'd say that's prettier in some ways, but that looks more like a water effect. Okay, good. Now we're on to epoxy. So what I'm going to do is fill all these up. And this time, what we're going to do, I think, because most of these powders and things I want to put in them are coloured, I'm just going to put clear in these. So, time to get a mask out, and we will go ahead. So the resin I'm using is Apex High Gloss, and we're going to go in with, first of all, I want to see what happens if you actually just paint your ethereal pigments straight onto the surface of the mould, because they're so pretty. I think that although it won't be anything like the effect that these were intended for, I think this might be rather a lovely thing to do anyway. Yeah, do one like that. One with, so that was, what's that one? That is Aurora. And this is Alchemy. And this is, so the first one was an Ethereal powder. This is an actual Chameleon powder. And you only need the tiniest bit. And get all up round the sides. Going carefully, and this is a very soft eyeshadow brush because I really don't want to scratch these moulds. They are mega shiny. And you know, with Chameleon powders, you normally back them with black, don't you? So let's do that. I'm going to be here all day with this, aren't I? This is just going to be getting out of hand, this. The rest I'm just going to do like half, well, 3/4 full with clear. So let's get that done. And I'm probably going to check on these in, what, about 4 hours, something like that, I think. See if it's got to the sort of tacky stage. Right, this one I'm going to do it all in clear. Okay, filming angle has changed, folks, because my camera rig has just come crashing down. Luckily, no iPhones ended up in the middle of my resin. Anyway, there we go. Now this one I'm going to do it with black. And we're going to go for quite an intense black. I really have put quite a lot of the black in there. It's just the black pigment from Vista. There we go, so that's the black one. And I am going to put a bit of black in this as well. I'm just going to put some in the bottom so we get like a shaded effect. Or a spotty effect. I wonder if it'll stay like that. I bet it won't. This is a resin that I would normally leave overnight. So I would say if I give it, I don't know, 4 or 5 hours, it should have started to firm up and go sticky. But we'll check it out then. We'll see what it's looking like. These have all pretty much cured already. I didn't think it was that warm in here today, but hey. Now, there's something I've got here that you may have seen in my previous videos. I've had a go at making some marabou, is that how you say it? Rainbow. It's not the same as the real thing. A mix of these ethereal powders just in alcohol. So I'm just going to give this a good shake up. Let's see if this works. I'm just going to run it all over the surface and let that cure. Let that dry rather. The alcohol will dissolve very quickly, but there's a mix of ethereal powders in there, so that's made it very fine. Let's try one now, actually just brushing the ethereal powders on. And this will be a small starfish. You'll see, I don't know if this is coming over on camera, but this stuff is just sticking to it all over. You don't need to spray anything onto it to make it stick. I had hoped to catch this while it was still sticky. It isn't. This is hard. So yeah, just make sure I've got plenty on there. Right, next one. Here we go, Chameleon powders on the back. So it's actually the same colour again that I used on the front of that one. And I'm going to just back these with clear because I think the whole point of this ripple effect is that you do see through it. Although, you know, I might just keep going and we might just do some with black as well. I don't know. Somebody was asking me the other day how I made my own kind of attempt at a marabou rainbow. It's really easy, folks. I've got myself that little bottle. It's just a needle tip dropper. I put some isopropyl alcohol in it, and then I got a load of these ethereal powders and put a bit of each in it, so you got a bit of a colour mix. Although, to be honest, it's probably ended up with it being almost all Aurora now because I did top it up earlier. Anyway. This one I do need to let it cure more, but you can see because it's mixed with the alcohol, the powder is like clumping into patterns. There's a little bit of developing there, so I'm just going to let that one dry. Let the alcohol evaporate. Look at it sparkling. Can you see? So I'm just going to let the alcohol evaporate, and we'll see. Yeah, I'll put the resin on the back once that's cured, once it's dried. This one's gone interesting, look. I swirled the black a little bit and it's gone. Looks like that might be quite interesting. So I'm going to put a bit of something white on the back of there. So I'm just going to top these up as they are. Going to see what these come out like. This one, obviously, I'm waiting for the alcohol to all evaporate. That's going to take a while because I've put quite a lot in. Now this final one here, I'm going to put a dot of white pigment in. Which I've now got all over my gloves and my fingers. This pigment is actually the white bloom pigment from Pouring Your Heart Out. It just happens to be the one I've got handy. So let's go with that. I really should use that for what it's intended for soon. Never been successful with a bloom, so it's about time I had another go. Right. So we're going to put white on the back of that because it's got black in it already. So let's go for a bit of white. It's time to leave it again, folks. I'll see you when they're all ready to demould. And then we will try next probably these flakes. Goodness knows what they'll do. We will try some Chameleon flakes, Ethereal flakes, and we've got glitter, and yeah, we'll try all the other stuff. I'll see you later. Right, I demoulded these. Now, I wasn't quite sure what I was expecting, but I wasn't expecting that. Don't know whether I like it or not, but that's the one I put the black on the back and then swirled it and then some white, and it had got the ethereal powders on the front. But anyway, it is what it is. But the black swirling inside worked well. It's just the colours I don't think worked. Anyway, this is the one that I just put the ethereal powders on. And it's a lovely effect. I mean, it's a great looking piece, but it doesn't really take full advantage of the fact that it's meant to look like water ripples. But it does make for a nice colour flippy, interesting piece in a different way. So we quite like that. Just keep putting these all over to one side. This was a big surprise. Now, this was the one I just dropped the alcohol with a lot of ethereal powders, different colours mixed into it. Expected it to just look a bit like an ethereal powder would on the back. But look. Very water ripply, I think. I think that's really nice. I'm surprised by how well that's worked. Now, the Chameleon one. Look at that. Where you get that fantastic chameleon effect. Well, of course, the ripple on the surface has made that even more interesting. So actually, I'm really impressed with that one. You could put black on the back of it to make it more dramatic, but I rather like it being transparent like that. Look at those colours. And this was the ethereal powders. And I think, to me, that is absolutely stunning because you've got that water ripple effect. It's made the colours go extra crazy. Absolutely love that. So still, the one that looks most like an actual water ripple is still the method that the people at IntoResin recommended. That looks most like just rippling water. But look at that. I mean, blimey. I'm going to be doing myself a pendant like that with the small one, I think. What should we go for next? Let's do flakes. So we have got Basilisk, which is a chameleon flake from the Tiny Turner. We have got Elf, which is an ethereal flake, again from the Tiny Turner. And then we've got these cheap nail art pack, I think I bought them for nail art, of big flakes that were from I have no idea where, probably eBay or something. I don't know. So again, the plan with all these is just to fill them up with clear and then muck about on the back with these different flakes. So yeah, I'm just going to put, same again, 3/4 fill them. Oh my goodness, now look at the sun. Well, now the sun's hitting that. That's ridiculous, isn't it? Yeah, anyway, where was I? We're just going to 3/4 fill them up and let them cure. And then I'll be back to do some messing about with the flakes on the back. So you don't need to watch me fill these up, do you? And so I will see you a bit later. Right, these are all, the surfaces are pretty much cured. I think they're still slightly tacky, but that should do nicely. So let's get ourselves some, what are we doing? We're doing flakes this time, weren't we? So let's go in with Elf. Let's do the big one in Elf. Look at that. Isn't that incredible? I just put way too much. Way too much. That's a bit wasteful, isn't it? Just wanted to be sure of a good coverage, really. So just pressing it gently down onto the surface, burnishing it on. Here we go. That should do. I'm not too worried if some of it's loose. We are just going to put glitter on the back of some of these as well, aren't we? The starfish, let's go in with Basilisk, which is a chameleon flake. They're not quite as... Oh, get the lid on quick. These aren't quite as chunky as the ethereal flakes. Again, I've used way more than I needed to there. So this is going to end up being quite opaque, I should think. So again, we're just burnishing it into the surface. And it's still loose. Well, I could shake it back into the pot, but I think I'll just leave it to mix in with the resin. So there we are. That's a real good coating of that. Next will be, it's that blue everywhere. These are these cheap flakes I got for nail art. And sometimes cheap stuff can really surprise you, can't it? Right. Should we try a couple of different colours? I'm quite tempted to try this green. I do rather like green, especially a kind of golden green. Now these don't seem to want to stick to the surface quite as well as the Ethereal flakes did. I think the Ethereal flakes are softer. That's the main reason. But if we put a good coating of these on, the resin will press it down anyway, because I'm sure it will sink in the resin quite nicely. So I'm just going to make sure I've got plenty in there. And like I said, this is very cheap stuff, so it really doesn't matter if I use a lot. And then, should we do a fiery one? Look at this orange. Isn't it lovely? This is kind of defeats the object of it meant to be water ripples, doesn't it? A very funny colour water indeed, this would. Now I'm just trying to pat it flat because it is not good. It doesn't want to stick. It definitely does not want to stick in the way that the higher grade flakes do. Right, I'm just going to chuck clear on the back of these again. So I will see you later. Okay, demold time for these. Let's have a look. Let's start with the Chameleon flakes. Now we haven't got the sun, so we might have to do a bit of imagination. Oh, that's nice. Yeah, of course I'll get these in the sun for you for the bit of film at the end. Assuming we have some sun. Oh yes. That water ripple effect on top of that is amazing. I mean, still, the one that looks most like water is still the one using their technique. But these, I think, are pretty impressive. Right, so this is the Ethereal flakes. That looks rather too much just like glitter on the back. Having said that, it's very, very pretty. I still love it. But it's not that flat layer of colour that really makes the water ripples work. But I'm still loving it. Right, now let's see what our cheap glitters looks like. Well, sorry, cheap flakes look like. Again, it's a wonderful effect. It doesn't look like water ripples, but it is still a very, very nice effect. I rather love it. So the more fancy I've got with this, the less like water ripples it's looked really. But I think the effects, oh, that's nice. I think the effects are very valid in themselves. And it's because the ripple shape of the mould is actually reflecting the colour around in a really weird and mad fashion. So we're getting some niceness. And same there, that looks like fruit. Isn't that lovely? Okay, so we're on to the next lot then. Again, I'm just going to chuck some resin in here. And I'll be back to show you what I'll be putting on the back when that's cured. And I think this will be our last batch. So I'll get some resin in. And we're going to be doing, for this last batch, holographic glitter. Aurora powder, which I might mix in rather than put on the back. I don't know, I might do both. So those are for the next one. And let's have this shimmer stuff. This is, I don't think they still do this, but this is a blue-green sort of chameleon pigment from Just For You Online. I'm going to get some resin in these and we'll take it from there. So I'll be back shortly. Well, in a few hours, but you know, blink of an eye for you. Okay, this time we're going to put glitter and stuff in. Now, I doubt very much if this is going to stick because I ended up leaving it overnight. But never mind. This is a pigment, which is, I don't know if they still do this one, but it's one of the sparkly pigments that Just For You Online used to do. So what I'm going to do is put quite a lot of it. Now I could just mix it in with the resin, I suppose. That would make sense, but I can just pour it on top. So we're just going to put a lot of that in here, like so. And next is actual glitter. Now this is called Cosmic, and it's just a holographic glitter. So we're going to try that. And again, I doubt if it'll stick, so I'm just going to put plenty in. I could just mix it in with the resin and pour some in. I suppose we could, because it'll sink anyway. But hey, I'm doing it like this, and that is just what it is. Then we've got several of these Intense Aurora powders. These are colour glaze ones. Colour glaze? Is that different? Intense Aurora Chameleon. Anyway, don't know. Let's try them. These were from IntoResin. As you can see, I haven't even opened them. Now this looks like... yeah, this is very much like the Ethereal powders, only a little bit coarser. Very nice. Tiny little bit in these pots, but it goes a long way. Now, okay, I'll tell you what, for the last two, let's actually mix it in with the resin. Let's do that. So, tell you what, for the last one, let's just mix it in with the resin. Let's do it with that one, and then this one we'll do with the foils. So, I'm going to need some gloves. The back of this one. Okay, so we just top those up. Right, now, I'm going to take, let's have, what shall we have? Tiffany. That sounds nice, doesn't it? And let's actually just try mixing a little bit. This time, mixing it in with the resin. Very pretty. So I'm just going to pour that onto the back of... actually, there's quite a lot there, isn't there? So let's pour it onto the back of this one. Ooh, isn't that nice? Ooh, that's nice. I like that. Right, so we're just going to let those set. Now this one, I'm going to put some UV resin in. We're going to part cure it, and we're going to go in with the nail foils. Okay, so that's going to be, yeah, that's proper sticky. Now, which side of this foil are we using? And which foil for that matter? There's a bluey one. Let's use the bluey one. Is it? I don't know, actually. We'll see what it... I'd like to see what it looks like, won't we? So which side is the down and which is the up? This could all go horribly wrong. Okay, so I couldn't get those nail foils to work. I've got some that will work somewhere, but I don't know where. Anyway, so let's do something different and actually brush it on in a way that it'll stick. Let's see if that makes any difference. You know, as to whether it's onto a sticky surface or not. Because if you remember, this one wasn't sticky. Whereas this one now is. Okay, let's demould these, and I think I'm going to call it a day at that. Probably should come back to foils and things and have another go at some point. Anyway, let's have a look. Now that's water rippled. Look at that. That's nice. Okay. And that was, what was that? That was that one, wasn't it? And that was the one we sort of brushed on. This was that one, which is actually a pigment powder. It's a very pretty one. Ah, that's interesting. Now, now you can see it was kind of blotchy on the back because instead of mixing it in with the resin, I brushed it on, if you remember. So that kind of blotchiness has worked with the water ripple effect. Now, I'm never going to remember which all these are, but I am going to get them outside in sunlight. And so we can have a closer look. But that glitter's worked as well. You definitely lose some of the water ripple, the proper water ripple effect. I keep referring back to this original one where it does look like a water ripple. But there's still something rather nice going on in there, isn't there? This one I'm very impressed with. I'm under artificial light here though, so, you know, we'll have to See what it looks in proper daylight. This was, what was this one? Oh, this was this Tiffany one, wasn't it? Oh, that's nice. Again, I don't know, does it look so much like water, but you have got the ripple effect. And it's got like a milkiness to it, which is interesting. Wasn't expecting a milkiness to it. Rather nice. And this is the one where I took that blue and I mixed it in with the resin to put on the back. And oh, that's nice too. Now you see, that was easier too. A sticky bit here. Oh god, I'm gonna have to wash my hands. Should have put my gloves on. Is there much difference between that and that? Not really. So I think we have got a water ripple effect still. It's just very different. And I mean, obviously just putting blue on it, yeah, that looks like you're looking into a swimming pool or something, doesn't it? I will put links for everything that I've used. All these powders, the moulds, everything. I'll put it all down in the video description. Don't forget all the stuff from IntoResin, which was these ones that work so well. And of course the moulds. I have got a 20% discount code for those. And don't forget, these are these absolutely beautiful handmade moulds. They're very special. If you've liked this video, people, you know what to do. Big thumbs up for me would be great. If you haven't already subscribed, don't forget subscribing's completely free. So if you do subscribe, then of course you'll be helping my channel out, and of course I will then also be able to let you know when I've got something new out for you. So that would be great. I'm going to take some photos or bits of video out of these out in the sunshine, and yeah, I hope you found it helpful or interesting or something. I hope you found it something. There we are, and I'll see you for the next one. Bye everyone, thanks for watching.